The rain came down in sheets, a cold, grey curtain over the green lawn cemetery. Family and friends huddled under black umbrellas, their faces grim, watching as the polished mahogany casket was lowered into the dark, wet earth. John Miller was gone. A sudden, tragic car accident had claimed him, leaving behind a grieving widow and a world of unanswered questions. The finality of the scene was absolute. The thud of dirt hitting the coffin lid, a punctuation mark on a life cut short. For everyone there, it was the end of John's story. But in reality, it was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, hundreds of miles away in a bustling, sun-drenched city, a man walked into a police station. He was disoriented, wearing clothes that seemed strangely out of place, and he couldn't explain how he got there. He gave his name, John Miller. The desk sergeant, accustomed to dealing with lost and confused individuals, ran his name through the system. A missing person report. No, something far stranger, a death certificate. The sergeant looked from the screen to the man standing before him, a chill running down his spine, despite the heat of the day. The man looked exactly like the photograph on file. They brought him into an interrogation room. They took his fingerprints. They matched perfectly. They asked him questions about his life, his childhood, his wife, Sarah. He answered every question with startling accuracy, sharing intimate memories only the real John Miller could know. He remembered the name of his first pet, the song that played during his first dance with Sarah, the secret scar on his left knee from a childhood fall. But then he said something that made the officer's blood run cold. He said, "The last thing I remember is the screech of tires, a blinding light, and then ... nothing. I think I died." The detectives were baffled. They were seasoned professionals who had seen it all, but this was something else entirely. A man with the deceased's face, fingerprints, and memories, claiming to have returned from the grave. It defied all logic, all science. Was it an elaborate hoax? A long-lost identical twin with a bizarre, shared consciousness? The theories grew wilder with each passing hour. The man, John Miller, was calm, but deeply confused. He spoke of a feeling of being disconnected, of waking up in a world that had moved on without him. He asked to speak to his wife, a request that sent a fresh wave of unease through the precinct. How do you tell a grieving widow that her husband, the man she just buried, has seemingly walked into a police station halfway across the country? The call was excruciating. Sarah was in disbelief, then angry, convinced it was a cruel prank. But when they put John on the line, and he spoke her name, her world shattered for a second time. It was his voice, the same cadence, the same gentle tone she knew better than her own. She agreed to fly out, her mind a whirlwind of hope and terror. When Sarah walked into the room and saw him, she stopped dead. It was him. The way he stood, the way his eyes lit up when he saw her, the small, familiar scar above his eyebrow. She ran to him. They embraced, and for a moment, the impossible seemed true. But as she held him, a subtle wrongness crept in. He felt real, he smelled real, but there was an intangible emptiness, a void where the warmth of the man she loved used to be. The reunion was a strange mix of profound relief and terrifying uncertainty. Faced with an unprecedented paradox, the lead investigator made a grim decision. There was only one way to be certain. They needed to exhume the body. A court order was expedited, and under the cloak of a moonless night, a team returned to Greenlawn Cemetery. The air was thick with tension as the diggers shovel bit into the still fresh earth. The silence was broken only by the rhythmic scrape of metal on dirt and the nervous breaths of the officers present. Finally, they reached the casket. With trembling hands, they pried open the lid. The collective gasp was audible. Inside, undisturbed, lay the body of John Miller. The same face, the same suit he was buried in, now beginning the slow, inevitable process of decay. It was him, undeniably, irrefutably him. The coroner confirmed it on the spot. Now, the impossible truth was staring them in the face. There were two John Millers. One lying dead in a coffin, and another, breathing and alive, sitting in a police station hundreds of miles away. The news hit the precinct like a shockwave. The case went from being a bizarre mystery to a full-blown existential crisis. Scientists were consulted, theologians were whispered about, but no one had an answer. The living John Miller was subjected to every conceivable test: DNA, psychological evaluations, brain scans. Everything came back normal. He was a perfect biological and psychological match for the man who was, at that very moment, being reinterred in his grave. He had no explanation for his own existence, only a persistent, dreamlike memory of an end that wasn't an end. The story was too big, too strange to contain. It began to leak to the press. The man who died twice, the headlines would have screamed, but they never got the chance. Just as the investigation reached its peak of baffling intensity, it stopped, abruptly. One morning, the lead detective arrived at his office to find the case files gone. All the evidence, the fingerprint scans, the interview tapes, the coroner's report from the exhumation vanished. When he inquired, he was met with cold, blank stares. Then, the men in black suits arrived. They weren't from any recognizable agency. They moved with quiet, unnerving efficiency. They informed the department that the case was now a matter of national security. All personnel involved were ordered to sign non-disclosure agreements, binding them to absolute silence under threat of severe penalty. The official record was to be scrubbed. John Miller, the living one, was taken away. Sarah never saw him again. The official story reverted to the simple, tragic car accident. To this day, the case remains a ghost in the archives, a story whispered in hushed tones by the few officers who were there. No one knows who the second John Miller was, or where he came from. Was he a clone, a doppelganger from another dimension, a glitch in the fabric of reality itself? The men who took him away provided an answer, and the world was never allowed to ask the question. To men, identical in every way, one dead, one alive. A perfect, terrifying paradox, buried not in a cemetery, but under layers of enforced silence and official denial. The truth is out there, but some doors, once opened, are slammed shut for a reason. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring the unknown, be sure to subscribe for more strange stories.